Both perspective of what we're dealing with and the hospice perspective. So what do we do? I'm a social worker as a background. How do we offer a supportive presence about death when we are encountering it on a regular basis? So the topics today we're going to be working, Gunnar and I will be talking about a grief, an introduction. How do you communicate with the bereaved? What are the common emotional responses? What do you say? There's no script, so we're just kind of going to give you some guidelines because you have to be present at that moment and be aware of your surroundings to understand what you should say to the family and what you shouldn't. Offering a supportive presence and compassion, fatigue, and self-care will be covered by Gunnar. So what is grief? Is an emotional reaction. And it shows in many different emotions. A lot of times you might see the family members throwing themselves to the body. A lot of times they don't want to touch the body. Nobody wants to be involved, and they expect for you to stay with them all the way until the funeral home gets there. So everybody has different expectations of what is our role, and the reality of it is that you need to be present with them and find out what do they need at that moment. Grief is going to come back at any time, and they might seem calm, and all of a sudden you turn around and you're getting ready to leave and the whole situation becomes chaotic too. Another family member comes in and they just realize that that loved one passed away or died. So one of the things that we want to talk about is the survivor is called bereaved, and then the victim is called the disease. Grief can manifest in many emotions. This is shock, numbness, denial, disbelief, anger, anxiety, sadness, and guilt. One of the things that I remember when my mom died, my brother offered CPR to my mom for 55 minutes before the EMS got there. That was in Puerto Rico, not here. So we have not had that experience here. But I remember when I landed in Puerto Rico, the first thing that he said was like, okay, so grief, there's the denial, there's the bargaining, there's the depression, and there is the acceptance. I think I am in bargaining today. So I'm moving along. Tomorrow, I'm going to be in a different stage, because he was very mechanical. He needed to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, and then I'm done with grief and I can keep living my life. So keep in mind that it is not a cycle, it is a roller coaster, and there's possibilities that you might not experience bargaining until you are way through your grief process, and then all of a sudden the denial might come again. So just because you see somebody going through that denial process doesn't mean they're going to be stuck there forever. They're going to move to another place on their grief process, and it might go back and forth until they reach that point that is acceptance. Okay, they accepted that their loved one is dead. However, the anniversary is coming back again a year later, so now they're going to move through that process all over again. So it is an ongoing process. There's no start or end point. They might be in the supermarket. They show up to the supermarket and they see some fruits that is a favorite fruit of the loved one, and then all of a sudden they no longer can cope and they start crying and they have to leave the supermarket and leave all the grocery stores because they're going to have a panic attack and leave. That is okay. That is part of the process. It can happen the first week, it can happen 6 months, it can happen a year, and it can happen during the anniversaries and holidays. So be aware of that. And make sure that you don't have an expectation that every single family member in that system is going to be at the same stage. You're going to have a family member, the husband is going to be super upset, then there's the daughter that is asking what can we do to bring mom back, and then you have the other person that is totally separated from the family situation, and they realize, yep, mom was very sick, I knew that it's time for mom to pass away, and it is okay. So everybody's going to be at a different place, and we're like, this is pretty chaotic. How can we get everybody to the same place? There's no way that you can get them to the same place. The only thing is for you to mold yourself and think, okay, this is what this person needs. I'm going to stand with the person that is in denial, and I'm going to be present with them. I'm going to let them talk and go through the process, and then you go to the next family member and you engage in those type of conversations with them without telling them what they need to do. These reactions are often thought as stages, but it's important important to remember that do not occur in any sequence, and they manifest in mixed states, and reactions to loss is completely individualized. You have to realize that when somebody dies, they had a specific relationship with that dead person. So they're looking at that situation through their own eyes. They're not looking at it through your eyes, and the other family member is not looking at it through the other person's eyes. So everybody's going to react differently because of the relationship that they have with that specific person. They might have had a healthy relationship. They might have had a horrible relationship. So their reactions to grief during the same room are going to be completely different. So, for example, if a child falls and has an accident, parents attempt to revive the child, call 911, and the attempts fail. That family coping situation is going to be completely different with an 84-year-old woman that dies after battling Alzheimer's, which can be manifested in agitation, combativeness, and other behaviors that were disturbing to the husband of 50 years. So the situation with the family and how that family is going to cope is going to be completely different than the 84-year-old. So you have to wear different hats under different circumstances. So the other component, the religious and spiritual beliefs, a lot of times when we're working with Jewish families, they want to light a candle and they want to open the window to let the spirit go. So there's different beliefs, and you're like, why are they lighting a candle? Why are they covering the mirrors? Why are they opening the window? So there's different reasons. Immediately when somebody dies in the house, a lot of families will cover the mirrors, so the soul will not be looking at itself and staying in the room. So they will cover the mirror so the soul, and they open the window so the soul can go. They might turn on a candle, light on a candle, and put it by the window so the soul can leave out the window. So there's different things that you might find that families might do that they're completely different than you would do if somebody dies. So that is okay. We just respect it and let them do those things. You need to find out the gender of the bereaved, age, all those things, relationship, just what I talked about, previous loss history, and pre-existing mental illness. One of the things that we do in hospice is every time we admit one family member, we do a bereavement risk score for every single caregiver that is going to be there and every family member. And depending on these different things is going to trigger a score and what type of services we're going to have to offer to them while they're in hospice, their loved one is in hospice, and then afterwards for 13 months, what are we going to do? Because based on these different things, they might score different levels. They might be a high for suicide. They might be a higher risk for depression. So these are the things that we look into when we are working with them. So what do? We will do short factual sentences, just like Dr. Siep said. Do not use the words dead, died, and death. Did you hear me saying passed away? We're not supposed to say that when we are in the home. It's very comfortable for me to say to you, oh, this person passed away. The reality of it is when you're actually talking to that bereaved, you don't want to use that terminology, because if there's children present, they're going to say, what does that mean? Or they left us and they went to heaven. What does that mean? They gone home. Okay, well, let's go and get them. So when there's children around or adults that have some mental disabilities, we want to make sure that we are very factual. They're lost. Okay, can we go and find them? If there's a child, 4-year-old says, okay, grandpa died or mom died, well, we lost them. Okay, well, let's go and find them. So they're going to be very concrete. So you have to realize that when you tell them the sense of finality, that they're dead, they die, that is a sense of finality. They're not coming back, but we're here to support you during this process. We can't bring them back, but we're here present with you. Okay, now we're going to pass the baton to Gunnar.